continues their winning streak with Batman, Dark Knight's The Merciless. So this was one of the weirder ones, like conceptually, when you look at just the Dark Knight in profile and some kind of like wide shot. The idea of a Wonder Woman Batman was easily the weirdest idea. Well, except for female Batman, that's also Aquaman. Okay, so it's the second weirdest. But the last two, Dawnbreaker and The Drowned, I liked them, but they had some significant problems, and this one is a step up from that. And we see why right on the very first page. So we get this really like intense shot of Batman holding Wonder Woman, and we see it's Earth -12, I think, and I'm not sure about this. I could look it up, but that sounds a little bit too much like work, so I'm not gonna. I think Earth 12 is the animated universe. So Batman is like in love with Wonder Woman, and I think that's why, because we saw that consistently in the Justice League old cartoon, that Batman and Wonder Woman kind of had a thing going on, so I guess this is a few years later when they actually had something real. A big positive for this issue, real early on, is just in the creative team. Peter J. Tomasi and Francis Manapul. Yes. Peter J. Tomasi started off at DC as an editor, and then they started giving him a few miniseries, a few fill-in arcs on Green Lantern, and then they finally made him into like a full regular writer. Francis Manapul was the artist on New 52 Flash, and that's one of the very few series that I ever bought consistently for the art. It was very energetic, it was very creative. So the fact that we've got one of their best writers and one of their best artists working on one of their most high-profile books, it's like, this is what Metal is all about. It's all about, and Scott Snyder mentioned this on Twitter, it's about letting the artist stand out. So all of these tie-ins, even the relatively weaker ones, had really good art, and now we've got one of their best writers writing it. So it opens, and it turns out that Ares has, like, wiped out all the Amazons, and the Justice League tried to stop them, or tried to stop him, and they were finally able to get to him, but he killed Wonder Woman. By the way, so this is like, this is Wonder Woman to me. Like, the movie version, the Gal Gadot version, that costume was a good compromise between sense and sensibility, because this is the Wonder Woman costume. But having like the skirt so that it makes it look more like a Greek cuirass, that I can see why they did that. And of all the compromises they could have made, that was probably the best one. Like, Wonder Woman pants just doesn't look right to me. People say that, you know, it's impractical to fight like this, that she should wear armor, but the thing is, she didn't go to Man's World to fight people. She came to Man's World to bring a better way of life. And her opposite to that is Ares. But here we see Batman as Ares, as the, what do they call him? The Merciless. And Ares, in Greek mythology, he represented the destructive element of war. Athena was a war goddess, but she represented sort of the necessity and the higher, more noble elements of war. But Ares was just pure destructive energy. So, in The Drowned, my problem with it was that we were told a lot of things we didn't need to know, and we weren't told a lot of things that we really should have need to know. By the way, sorry about this cut on my hand. I don't even know where I got it. I hope it's not too distracting. Anyway, but here we're kind of told everything. So, there was a war going on between Ares and basically the rest of the world. The Justice League and the Amazons were able to finally stop it to get to him. And Ares is just like, whatever, come at me, bro. So it turns out that the reason why he got so much more pissed off than usual was because he had made some kind of, this new helmet here that, for whatever reason, greatly increased his powers. So Batman puts on the helmet, and he gains the power of the war god, and he's able to stop him, but then because he has mantled the power of a god, and because he's mantled the aspect of the war god, he gains a new perspective. He doesn't see war the way that Athena would. He sees war the way that Ares does, which is just kill them before they kill you. So he starts basically killing his entire world. First he goes after all the people that he knew were bad, all the people that might threaten those that can't defend themselves. He's destroyed almost everybody that could have stood in his way on Earth, and now he's in the realm of Olympus, and that's when the Batman Who Laughs shows up with his Joker minions, or with his corrupted Robin minions, and he basically tells them that this world is literally going to fall apart before he finds what he wanted to find. So Batman agrees to join the other Dark Knights in laying siege to the world above, the world of light and the real DC universe. Then we find out the big twist, which is that, for one thing, we thought that Batman muses at some point that once you put the helmet on, you can't take it off because it's just so overpowering. But Bruce Wayne is Batman, but this guy is still Batman, and it turns out that Batman is above stuff like that, so he's able to take the helmet off because since he's internalized its message, since he is in full control of himself, since he, as far as he's concerned, he's only done the right thing. He, as far as he's concerned, the war on crime that he was raging as Batman, is just, he was only going in half measures, not the full measures that needed to be done. And so because he was stripped of his illusions, he doesn't actually need the helmet anymore to either feed him power or to corrupt him. He's already so thoroughly corrupted that there's nothing that can be done. And the other thing we find out is that it wasn't Ares that killed Wonder Woman. It turns out that in this picture, Wonder Woman's actually only stunned, and it was actually Batman that killed her because she threatened to take his power away from him. And so that story is actually really interesting to me, about a Batman who finally doesn't just stops caring anymore and has enough power to get away with it. So the other element of the story is that we see what happens to Argus and to the Suicide Squad. So we see Argus sitting around contemplating, just trying to figure out strategies, and then Batman the Merciless shows up in their headquarters, and even before he reaches the floor that the Leadership Council is on, they're already at each other's throats. So he's killing the grunts, and he says he gives them a clean death, even though these people are like literally being burned alive. So he's whatever he thinks a clean death is, he's clearly very far beyond mercy or any kind of real understanding of compassion. So then, as the Argus members are fighting each other, before they are still able to call in an airstrike on their own location to try to stop this Batman war machine. And it destroys all the city, but it doesn't destroy the Merciless, and it doesn't destroy the Argus Council, whom he deliberately saved. And it turns out that he has basically corrupted their minds so that they worship him like a god. The reason why he's able to absorb it is because not so much of his... It's not a power thing. It's not like he's Bishop where he was able to absorb the energy. It's more like because the intent of it was to cause destruction, they couldn't destroy Ares, because Ares feeds off of destruction and power and death, and so their attempt to kill him only made him stronger. And it turns out he doesn't keep them alive out of mercy, he actually keeps them alive so that they can watch what he does to their world. So yeah, this issue is definitely... this is really good. Oh, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that all of the Batman tie-ins have had a name of a metal album or song, and you'll notice I actually used the song this time. Um, but anyway, the high quality that these are produced at is really the thing that I keep being amazed by. Just the high level of art, the high level of writing, even the relatively weaker ones still had stuff going for them. I'm not reading any of the tie-ins to any of the like main series tie-in because, frankly, that stuff gets expensive when you try to keep up with every single tie-in. But yeah, these one shots have been really really good, and every one of them has explored a different element of Batman so far. Red Death was about his lust for power and his inability to deal with getting older. Murder Machine was about his inability to deal with the loss of security and comfort that comes with Alfred. Dawnbreaker was about his inability to deal with his rage and his grief, especially at a young age. The Drowned was about his inability to deal with just the unfairness of life. And finally, as the Merciless, the most recent one, is about his inability to deal with the compromises you have to make in order to make yourself into a hero. So he stops compromising and he becomes a full out villain that destroys the entire world. So it you know, Batman's one of those characters, maybe more than anybody else, that almost everything's been said about him. So I don't think they've ever shown Batman just going full out evil before. So the tie-ins have been really interesting in that regard. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because when something's really good, there's almost not as much to say about it. Tell me what you thought. Tell me if you're reading these. Tell me if you agree with these. In any case, this is Unranked Chevron signing off.